dynamic brain plans. Thus, an investigation of the cognitive foundation of artistic expression and appreciation in all forms promises to offer a special window into our uniquely human neurology. If we can move on to the next slide, please. And this is where I want to now start talking about this whole idea of mimesis in the context of embedded embodied realities. And so, if we are supposed to, if I'm supposed to give the most abstracted understanding of the world, prehistory is a time where we understand the world only in the relation to man and woman. Right, which is why all of the work that you see, especially in terms of these figurines, you have these Venus of Willendorfs that start cropping up all across the world. And all of these Venus of Willendorfs, they had a very, very unique, peculiar attribute to them. It was the fact that all the reproductive organs, the breasts, the vagina, they were, the hips, they were exaggerated. And these were faceless. Okay, so you understand the world as man and woman in relation to the woman being, sorry, the woman being somebody who reproduces life. Okay, and it is in this relation that we see now. Why is this conversation of mimesis and embodied reality or embedded reality so important over here? If this was only one Venus of Willendorf figurine that we would have found from one part of the world, then this entire conversation goes for the toss. But at different parts of the world, and you're talking about a time on the planet when you had about 5 to 10 people every 100 square kilometers. The densities of our cities today is a couple of lakh people per square kilometer, or a couple of thousand people per square kilometer. You had 5 to 10 folk every 100 square kilometers. So imagine the distances that exist, and imagine the human population that was there. These figurines were discovered at various parts of the world, and schematically, the schema aspect of it that we began this presentation with, through the going through the Egyptian impressionists and post-impressionists and all that, schematically, it's very, 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 very close to each other. That's number one. Number two, all the prehistoric cave paintings that you see, there is again this kind of a schematic overlay, no matter which part of the world you're in. There are about 20 to 25% of things that change, but about 75 to 80% of it remains the same across the world. So what is happening is, as a species, the way in which we are actually understanding and articulating the world is about understanding this reality on ground. It is about understanding this reality that exists right here, right now, and we respond to that. We create objects to respond to that. Those objects help us further respond to that reality. So it's a constant play that we're a part of. Next slide, please. And again, so this whole idea of tools becomes very important, because if you see something like this, you realize that we actually started understanding the idea of holding on to stone. We actually started understanding the idea of grip. We actually started understanding how it fits with our body. Okay, and this is where this whole conversation of miming then starts coming into picture. Because again, you're embodying that reality that exists, and then you're responding to that rather than copying it. It's not copying, it's not mimicking. Next, please. And it is in this regard that I bring another aspect, another point from Aristotle, which is least discussed. We discuss mimesis from Aristotle very often, very now and then. But a key term and key idea that Aristotle gave was this concept of autochthony. Now, autochthony is what actually means that, because you come from a legal background, there is legal autochthony, there are autochthonous constitutions, and in legal parlance, there's a lot of use of the term autochthony. Autochthony essentially means to spring from the soil itself. And in terms of modern cognitive research. Because what is actually happening is we understand and perceive the world through our body. The body is not something that responds to the world, but rather it's one of the most important aspects or one of the most important tools for you to understand the world and vice versa. Now, the reason I bring a Vardi painting by Julius Obermasche is again, Vardi traditions, again, if you see, none of them represent reality as they see it, but rather it's a lived experience. For them, that crocodile, or for them, that lizard or that peacock is not something to be attained. It is not something to be represented. It is not something to be objectified in the sense that I create an object and understand the semantic value of it, but rather for the Vardi artist, it is a reality as they see it, as they live it, and the reason you have this is again going back to that primordial sense and sensibility of responding and being in the world, living and embodied reality. Next, please. Again, another one by Julius Obermasche. Next. Sorry. Again, another tribal figurine from Africa. So if you, Picasso had greatly been influenced by African masks. He had greatly been influenced by a lot of prehistoric paintings as well, according to research. And again, what was very fascinating for him was these people, these tribes who were out there, they were not at all interested in worldly things. They were not interested at all in representing what lies out there because they did not see that as distinct from themselves. And that is where the fundamental nature of the work that exists in these different civilizational cultures, civilizational nations, so to say, operates. And this is where the whole idea of autochthony and mimesis comes into picture. Because with the whole colonization of countries, the larger global south that was there, a lot of these